Good morning or afternoon, as the case may be. We're going to start going through section 1 from chapter 10. Section 1 happens to be just a basic introduction of the nervous system for chapter 1. In this particular slide, you can see the brain and the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord specifically make up the central nervous system, and we'll talk about that later. Forgive my penmanship with the mouse here. So that's the brain and the spinal cord, only in the central nervous system. And then any nerves going to or from the cranium, and any nerves going to or from the spine, or spinal cord specifically, make up the peripheral nervous system. And we'll have that out here on a couple different slides, but just a general overview of the two systems, peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system for us. So in general, a nervous system basically integrates, takes in messages, integrates, and then responds to all the things going on around our bodies and inside our bodies on a nonstop basis. Hundreds of thousands of pieces of data are being received and then integrated and then responded to over the course of our day. And so your sophomore year, you learned about neurons, and that's what you see in this picture, whoops, right here is one neuron, that giant picture. We saw that earlier this year with the when we studied tissues. Mainly our nervous system is nervous tissues, but we do have some blood vessels, which is a type of connective tissue, and other connective tissues. We're going to spend time review those neurons, go a little bit deeper, talk about the three kinds of neurons, but we're also going to talk about some of the support cells, and we're going to talk about the different neuroglial cells in our peripheral nervous system as well as our central nervous system. Our third slide here talks about the parts of that general type of a neuron. We got the part that receives information, and that part of the neuron is called the dendrite, and that takes in any information from whether it's a touch receptor or a taste receptor, smell receptor, sight receptor, pressure receptor, proprioceptor, temperature receptor, all those kinds of things that we'll talk about later. It's going to carry information to the main part of the neuron, which is called the soma or the cell body. And then the neuron's going to send information away from the main part or soma, and that's called the axon. There's only one axon that's going to leave the soma, although sometimes there are some branches, and we'll talk about that later. But they carry the bioelectric signals, electrical signals down the neuron, and then we're going to change that electrical signal into a chemical signal via some sort of neurotransmitter. We talked about acetylcholine choline during the muscle system. And then that neurotransmitter has to fuse across a space, and that space is called the synapses, and that's where our neuron meets some other object, whether it's a muscle cell or a stomach cell or the heart cell or whatever the case may be. There's going to have to be that space that it diffuses across and then causes some action. Again, central nervous system. There are two major divisions of the nervous system. Brain and spinal cord is the CNS. Peripheral nervous system made of the cranial and spinal nerves. On our fourth slide here, we can start to talk about the two divisions that we have. We have a sensory division. Sensory division of our peripheral nervous system is going to pick up sensory information, things that you hear, see, smell, taste, feel, and they're going to send that information to your brain or spinal cord. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later as well. And then we have the motor division. This is going to be when you integrate information, now you're going to send out information to a muscle, to a gland, like your pancreas, stomach, liver, or whatever the case may be, and cause some action to take place. Our motor division then is divided into two more sectors, the somatic and autonomic division. If you think somatic is the one that you consciously control. That's like your skeletal muscles. You decide when to move, how fast to run, how high to jump, all those actions. The autonomic system, think of that as kind of like automatic transmission in your car. Your car automatically changes gears if you have an automatic transmission vehicle. If you don't, you have a manual transmission, you're the one that has to change those gears. Well, our autonomic division of our motor division carries out that information and you don't think about it, which is probably a good thing in some instances. Some of you probably forget to have your heartbeat. Some of you would actually probably forget to have your diaphragm contract and you'd forget to breathe. So our autonomic nervous system carries out those impulses that we don't have to think about, that our body just acts and responds to. Our last slide here, just a general slide, try to make some sense of all this stuff again. Remember, we have some sensory receptors and sensory neurons, and those sensory neurons carry information to the brain or maybe to the spinal cord. Remember, that's the peripheral nervous system carrying information to the central nervous system. Our motor division, on the other hand, carries information away from the brain or away from the spinal cord, depending on the situation. If it's in the head or in the face, ears, back of the head, you're going to carry information away. Or if it's your arms, legs, stomach, you're going to carry information away from the spinal cord. And again, those two divisions, somatic division is the one you control, and the autonomic is the one you don't control. So this is a very nice graphic. It's in your book on page 355. Kind of sums up just a general introduction here to the nervous system, central and peripheral.